Everybody, welcome back. It's Wes Eisenschenk. You are watching Lost and Found Muscle Cars here on YouTube. And today we are recording. It is 4/29. What does that mean? It is Boss 4/29 day. And why wouldn't I have on a special guest? Today, Robert joins us all the way up in Saskatoon, Canada. And he used to have a Boss 4/29. Robert, get us up to speed on this query you put out on Facebook in 2021 looking for your old B9 Mustang.
Yes, I wanted to track it down, and when I found Lost and Found Muscle Cars, I saw a picture of it on there, and I proceeded to track it down, and I emailed you, Wes, and that's how we found it.
So his old 2022 query got no results, and we were off and running with this search. Robert had a trick up his sleeve, though. He had never done this yet, but he reached out to the prior owner of this car. Now, Robert, get us up to speed on when you bought this car and why you decided to try to locate this old owner.
I purchased the car on December the 17th, 1975. Drove it home to Swift Current from Saskatoon in a snowstorm. And I knew the previous owner's name because he had it on a consignment lot, and I bought it off that consignment lot, but I never did phone Stuart until about a month ago. And I got the VIN number from him and send it to you, West, and that's how we located it.
Can you believe that? Think about this. You retained all of that knowledge about who this previous owner was for the better part of 50 years now, Robert, right?
That's correct. 1975.
Well, let's bring on the next person in this story because Stuart had this car before you. And Stuart has been kind enough to join us here on Lost and Found Muscle Cars.
Hi, guys.
Stuart, nice seeing you.
Hey, Robert. Nice to meet you.
Stuart owned this car back in 1971, and Stuart is joining us from Canada as well. Stuart, tell us a little bit about this car and why you bought this Boss 429 Mustang.
Well, it's funny, but I had one once before that I seen when I was younger, just in an alley behind our store. We had a drugstore, and then up the alley was a couple guys who worked on hot rods. And one day I walked up the alley and I seen this green Boss 429, and I just, you fall in love. Anyways, I ended up with owning that car eventually, and that's a whole nother story, but then I sold it. And then I thought, I go through some other cars, and I like that car. Like, it drove nice. It just did things I liked. Like I was saying, like, if you watch that car go down the road and they goose it, they boot it, you're not driving, you're just watching it. And they'd nail it, and the car wouldn't do this and take off. It would just stand up and go. And I thought,
sure.
That car is cool. So I went hunting, and I found one in Toronto. So I flew to Toronto in Canada. It's quite a ways away, about 3,000 kilometers or miles, whatever. It's a long way. I bought the car. I won it. And then I drove it home from Toronto in the winter to Saskatoon.
How many hours?
Oh God, that'll be a few days. That's like I slept in the car. Anyways, I drove it home, and then of course I painted it black because it was green.
That's kind of where we pick up the story with Robert, right? So you had this car, painted it black, and you sell it to Robert.
Yep.
Right now, this is it's going on 50 years ago you sold this car, right? You sell it to Robert. Why are you selling this Boss Mustang?
You got to sell one to get the next one of whatever car. If you love cars, you kind of get it. You go like, all right, I can't have them all.
Sure.
Can't afford that. So you play with it, done. You sell it, then you get another toy. And then you play with it, done, and you go on. So that's why I sold it. That's why I ended up buying the second Boss, because I loved it so much, right?
That's so cool. So it's 2 months ago. And you get a phone call out of the blue. And it's the guy who bought the car from you in 1975. What were you thinking?
somewhere along the line, somebody had sent me a picture. Guys know my cars. And it was like, is this your old boss? Blah, blah, blah. I said, well, I don't know. It has a tunnel ram and stuff on it now. And then when Robert called, then he filled in all the blanks. And that was kind of neat. It was like, okay, you're the guy.
Yeah.
You put the tunnel ram on it and you got the car in Swift Current. And then he started explaining that I don't know where the car is. And I don't have any papers. I need a serial number. And then I said, well, I think I got a original paper thing. I've got some documentation, I call it. So I go and I find it. I get this. And that's...
So everyone, I'm setting this up. In the car hobby, this is the golden goose, right? All of us are chasing original documentation on our muscle cars. And Robert he's up Blank Creek with no CarCraft number, no serial number, and he reaches out to you.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, you have an original invoice on this car.
Yeah. Oh, weird, eh? Yeah. I thought it was pretty.
I think it's beyond it. I think it's the awesomest thing that can happen for two guys who have not seen each other in 50 years. This is literally taking place right now. The last time you guys saw each other, you guys were young bucks.
Well, you think so? 50 years ago?
So it brings it to present day, right? Robert's got a serial number. You've been able to help him with that. And then Robert reaches out to me and he goes, Wes, you run Lost Muscle Cars. You run Lost and Found Muscle Cars. Can you help us? Can you help us find this old Lost Mustang? Now, granted, this is a car in Canada. This is a car that went through hard winters, slick roads, and the elements. Well, guess what? We found your old Boss 429. We found Robert Stewart. We found your Boss 429.
Way to go, Wes.
Are you guys ready to see it?
Oh, you betcha.
Yeah.
Here it is, your old Boss 429 Mustang.
Looks gorgeous.
Well, it's original.
Wow, you can see how you fall in love with something, Pretty cool.
I'm wondering where the tunnel ram and the two 850 Hollies are.
Hopefully in the trunk.
That's so cool.
Well, guess what? We're bringing on the current owners of this car right now. Everyone, I'd like to introduce you to Adris and Anderson. They own this amazing Boss 429 Mustang. Guys, welcome, Adris, Anderson. You guys are right at the precipice of learning more than 50 years of your 70 Boss 429 right now.
Sounds good.
So let me tell you something. Adris, this is your car, but your son Anderson is the guy that loves muscle cars, right?
That's correct.
Anderson, get me up to speed, buddy. How did you get involved with these cool cars?
So we kind of started off by, we were kind of into older classic cars, and one of our good friends an older man had a collection, and as a kid, we always went and looked at those cars, and I've always dreamed about having some cars. So then we eventually got the chance to buy those older classic cars, and then I just wanted to step it up a little bit, and we got into Shelby's and Boss 429s.
Shelby's and Boss 429s, that's the tip of the spear in the Mustang world. Now, can you believe the travels of your guys' Mustang? Let's start with Toronto, right? You guys have the original reports on that car, and you just are hearing right now from Stuart that he flew to Toronto and picked up that Mustang and drove it all the way to Saskatoon, sleeping in the car in the winter in the middle of nowhere. He sells the car to Robert. Robert has this car, hot rods the piss out of it. It looks meaner than whatever you want to call it. And Robert, you sell the car in about 1981. Where does the car go then?
I went to Regina, Saskatchewan.
And from Regina, where do you hear that car ended up?
As far as I know, from there, I went to California, and I just found that out a couple of weeks ago.
So let's paint this picture, folks. Toronto, Saskatoon, Regina, California. And here we have Adris and Anderson with the car in Florida, right?
Yes.
This is the North America Boss 429. This thing literally painted the whole upper peninsula of this country, or this continent. Well, Anderson and Adris, we got something cool to show you. Your green Mustang used to be black, and it used to have dual quads, and it was one of the baddest muscle cars in Canada, and we want to show you those photos right now.
Wow. It's crazy how much a car can change every time. It definitely drew some people's attention.
It's got a story to tell. I'll tell you, man. There might not be a Boss more traveled than this car. It probably has low miles, but most of those miles it's seen on this planet came via a car trailer, unless, of course, it's Stuart driving it across upper Canada in the middle of winter and taking a nap in it, right? Artist and Anderson, it's great to have you guys on, man. And I'll tell you what, it's kind of like passing the torch, right? It's the father to the son, and it's collecting in the hobby. And man, I was just like you once. I was the kid opening up the muscle car book and looking for the coolest stuff that I could read about. But we got something for you guys, Adris and Anderson. We got something that you do not know about this car. And I'm going to tell you right now. Stuart, would you mind holding up that sheet of paper again?
Okay. I love how Anderson said he loved the car. So that's the beauty. That's what we do.
Wow.
That, sir and young man, is the original invoice or a copy of it of your original Boss 429. Now, I'm going to tell you something about this car. It has handwriting on it from John Phillips. John Phillips was the performance advisor for Ford Motor Company of Canada. And on this invoice, he is authorizing the installation of 411 gears. Those 391s got yanked, 411s got put in, and I'm going to tell you right now, there's probably only a handful of cars in the Boss 429 world that ever had this happen to it. Is that cool?
Very cool.
Here you are connecting 50 years of history instantaneously. Now, let me ask you this, Adris. When you saw the photos of this car street machined the way Robert put it together, did you even imagine that this car is yours and the heritage that it has?
Never dreamed it.
I mean, it's night and day, the two animals that this car was in its previous life and what it is today. You got to give us a quick story, Robert. Tell us a little bit of something about this car to these two men.
Well, I can verify that there was 411s in there because when I put the 457s in, my friend who's a mechanic was standing beside me and I says, look it, there's 411s in here. Somebody must have changed those from the factory. I did not know there's 411s until Stuart showed me that piece of paper. Unbelievable. Back in the 70s, you sort of personalized your car. I had plans and I wanted to have tunnel ram and I wanted to stand out. I wanted to have a clean, mean street machine back then. And it was clean and mean. And the work I did to it, planned it myself, and turned out great and turned a lot of heads in its day.
Well, what I love about something like this now is, you know, when Adris and Anderson show this car or have it on display somewhere, you know, they can now add a display board portion of this that tells the whole story of this car coming from Toronto all the way across the country, not to mention the provenance of it having the 411 swapped in by, authorized by John Phillips. So sometimes, Artist and Anderson, it takes experts to help us find those exclusive and important Mustangs, right? And you guys have been working with the creme de la creme in the hobby. You reached out to none other than one of the Boss 429 experts and the leading authorities on these cars, Mr. Nate Jones.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate the introduction.
Nate is a Boss 429 and a Shelby GT500, GT350 expert specializing in high performance 69 and 70 Mustangs. Nate, you got to tell us a little bit about what you do currently in this market.
So Nate's Classic Cars, what we do is we work with a lot of collectors, find exactly what they're looking for. Like Anderson here, he was seeking some of the rarest Shelby and Boss Mustangs, so we helped him out and we went and sought after those. Also, I do probably a restoration a year. Anymore, we're kind of working on our own stuff, and then most of what I do is buying and selling Shelby and Boss Mustangs. I've probably sold, I would say a few percent of Boss 429 Mustangs ever made. So I sell quite a few a year. As I started working with the Boss 302 registry with the Boss 429 database, we're compiling more information, more cars, trying to get a registry built with that, and trying to help people like Anderson and other collectors out there to really get to know their cars, the history of those cars, and do things like what we're doing here, where we're connecting all the dots from Church Motors to Anderson, and really, my passion is muscle cars. My passion is Ford muscle cars. I love Shelbys. I love Bosses. I love getting them back on the road. We see a lot of collections out there where, they sit for years and nobody ever sees them. I like selling cars to guys, that want to get out and drive them. I want to sell them to guys like Anderson who they do take them to shows. They do, let kids sit in them. We talked a little bit, of the muscle car era from Stewart to me, to you, Wes, to Anderson. I think the biggest thing with muscle cars are, it's muscle, it's power. Everybody loves it. It doesn't matter how old you are. But I think it's important to get these cars out in front of the youth, in front of guys my age, and let them sit in it, let them drive it, because we got to keep this passion going, and we got to keep it alive. And I think that's what we're doing here. So I'm happy to be a part of it. Thanks for letting me join.
That's fantastic. I do need to know a little bit about your history with this Mustang. Could you tell us a little bit about it?
So I tell you what, I got my start when I was 14 years old. My father, I call him my father, he's actually my stepdad. He was working on a 1969 Boss 429 that we ended up taking out to Barrett Jackson and setting a world record. From that point forward, and actually, well before that, my father, Ed Meyer, was known as the Boss 429 guru, the Ford guru, and he was actually the head judge for the Shelby Automobile American Club. So I had a good upbringing, one would say. He kind of taught me everything I know about these cars. And, fast forward years later, I met one of his good friends, Mason Jones. And Mason had one of the best Boss 429s I think I've ever laid eyes on. And it was this grabber green, white interior, KK 2318. And, as soon as you lay eyes on a car like that, it just pops. And the color combination says a lot about the car. And, for whatever reason, I was, drawn into that color. And got to talking about Mason, got to talking to him about it for a little while. And next thing you know, he's got it at my father's shop, and we were doing some detailing on it. So we got it back up to like Concours standards. Then it went back to Mason. Years later, Anderson is seeking, the best Boss and Shelby cars that he can find. So they reach out to me, and I said, hey, I don't know if Mason would ever sell this car. However, we can talk to him. So we start to talk to Mason about it a little bit, and I ask him some of the history. And he tells me, hey, the car's sold new in Canada. So we know it's sold at Church Motors there in Ontario. And he only knew that. And then he said, I bought it from a guy in Beverly Hills. So this guy in Beverly Hills had it along with the 1969 Boss 429. And at the time Mason had bought it, he knew it was matching numbers. He knew it was original Ford sheet metal, and he knew it was one of the rarest color combinations. So Ed goes out, looks at the car. Mason ends up buying it, and I think Mason owned the car. I'm trying to think. I would say Mason owned the car for like 10, 12 years after the guy in Beverly Hills. So the Beverly Hills guy had it for quite some time. And then, from basically Church Motors to Beverly Hills, we know nothing. And Mason knew nothing. Ed didn't know much about it. So, that's the history on KK 2318 as we know it. But I'm happy to be here and happy to learn a little more about, what was lost in that time frame from Church Motors to the old man in Beverly Hills.
Sure. Yeah, we went through the recap real quick with Stuart purchasing that car out of Toronto, driving it all the way to Saskatoon, spending winter nights in the car along his drive. How many Boss 429s trekked from east to west across the middle of Canada? Probably only this car, right? He sells the car in 1975 to Robert. Robert here is the guy who hot rodded the car. It had already been painted black by Stuart. Robert repaints it black and then adds the dual quads, puts the Kraggers on it, gives this car one of the sickest looks it's ever had. And from there, Robert sells the car and it goes to Regina in about 1981. And that's the little gap we still haven't filled, Regina to California. That's just a little piece of the puzzle. But, Nate, we got to ask you something. We have an original invoice here from Stuart. This has handwriting on it from Ford of Canada Performance Advisor John Phillips. On this sheet of paper, he is authorizing the installation of 411 gears into this car. You're a Boss guy. You've seen many invoices. Have you ever seen handwriting from somebody with this kind of authority authorizing the installation of something prior to it being sold new?
Yeah, I've never seen anything quite like that. So pretty interesting to see it on a car like this. I would like to know, Robert, when you had this car, did it have the 411s in it? Do you remember?
Yes, it did, but I didn't know it.
When he was gear swapping, he was taking the 411s out thinking that a prior owner had already put them in there, not knowing that this was done at Ford Motor Company of Canada.
Yeah, it's crazy to see something like that. Like I said, I've never seen it on an invoice. As I've taken over the Boss 429 database here, I guess within the year, I've compiled a lot of paperwork, and we went through a lot of paperwork. And to be honest, never seen anything like this. So pretty cool to have my hands on a car like that. Pretty cool to get this car in a collection like Anderson's. But very neat to see.
So, as an advisor of somebody who's got a Boss Mustang like this, do you recommend the 411s go back into the car?
Yeah, I think the 411s have to be in the car. It's on the invoice, it's on the paperwork, and that's what we would like to see. I would also be curious to see, kind of what they did if they went ahead and changed the axle tag on it, or if they left it at 391, because on it today is the correct 391 axle tag with the date code. So it's kind of weird to see that, unless somebody over time had eventually found that. So I'd be curious to kind of see if Stuart or Robert remember that axle tag and kind of what it said on there.
Let's hear it, guys.
No, sorry, Nate. I wouldn't have changed the axle tags or anything, and nobody would have did that in our day.
Encompass everything we just discussed. We have at the very historically beginning of the hobby of the muscle car era, we got Robert and we got Stuart, two guys who bought a Mustang back in the day who just love the car. They love the look of a 69-70 Mustang, and of course, the color combinations that were available on these cars. And you take that to a guy like Nate. Nate is right in the middle of this hobby right now, and he's the guy who's an expert here, understanding the differences that were available on these cars with some of their options, and also the historical significance of some of the cars that are currently missing or currently existing collections and putting history together of them. And at the very, very precipice right now, we have Anderson, who is just coming of age with the muscle cars, and he's getting to know these cars. And he's doing it by doing what we have all done before him, talking to people who live this era, who got to experience these cars, who got to watch when the throttle was hit, the cars stand up and leave. Anderson, what's it feel like to now have all this history that you get to discuss with people on this car?
It's unbelievable. It's amazing. Thank you
Yeah.
all so much for sharing all this information with me. And this wouldn't be possible without Nate and Ed's help. They just played a huge role in collecting these cars. So I couldn't thank them enough.
Yeah, I've dealt with Ed Meyer myself. Ed has authenticated a Boss Mustang for me, a prototype CarCraft 1201, and nobody knows these cars better than Ed and Nate. They are the guys you go to when you need something authenticated or debunked, right? Sometimes these cars aren't what they seem, and these are the guys who are going to tell you what you got or what you don't have. Thank you guys so much for making this one of the coolest episodes of Lost and Found Muscle Cars. We couldn't do these kind of stories without you guys all being willing to tell your story. Guys, check out the Boss Registry. It's Nate Jones is now Pride and Joy, and we are looking to log more cars. Hey, maybe there's some other oddballs out there. And with that, we're going to put a wrap on this beautiful Boss 429 70 Mustang. I'm Wes Eisenschenk. Thanks for watching Lost and Found Muscle Cars. We'll see you down the road.